All right, well, this Parsha of the week is called Toldot. And it tells the story about the interaction of Yaakov and Esav. And that Yaakov wants to get the blessings from his father. His father wants to bless him. His father wants to bless Esav first. There are many explanations behind this, that he didn't know that Esav was really bad, or he didn't know that he was bad, but he figured he could fix him up by giving him a blessing. And Rivka, Yitzchak's wife, knew better. This whole thing happened when Yitzchak was blind. If Yitzchak wasn't blind, there wouldn't be any problem. He would just see which one it was. So Yitzchak got blind. Or maybe Rashi, okay, on the pasuk Vayihiki Zaken Yitzchak, when Yitzchak became old, B'techehen na einav, and his eyes became weak, dull, mirot, from being able to see. This sikha is in the sikhas of the Rebbe, Chilek Tes Vav. It's on page 225 in the Hebrew. So Rashi starts giving reasons why he got blind. What happened? One opinion is, maybe close the door. Vatichahena be'ashno shel elu shehayim ashnos katoras lavud zora. It's from the smoke of, it says the wives of Esav, whatever, that they were offering up offerings, burning up offerings, and making incense, burning up incense to idolatry. And Yitzchak was so sensitive that the smoke made him blind. Davar acher, another explanation. Keshenekar al gabi mizbech, when Avram took Yitzchak to sacrifice him on the altar. Remember we learned that? And he wanted to slaughter him. Avram wanted to kill Yitzchak. The Akedah. But Otosha, at that time, Niftacho Shamayim. The heavens opened up. Ro Malchei Shorit. The ministering angels saw what was going on. V'hoyu bochim. And they were crying. The angels were crying. Here's a human being that defied all of the world only to serve God. Highest level of service, things that angels could not do. Angels can't go against their nature. And here's a human being that every moment of his life was going against his nature and the nature of the world and the laws of nature. And now this same person is going to do the ultimate defiance of nature, is going to sacrifice his own son. That's going to destroy everything he worked for. So the angels were crying. Ve'yordu diamoteim, and their tears dropped down. V'naflo al einav, and they fell on the eyes of Yitzchak. He was there on the altar. Lefichach, therefore, kahu einav, therefore his eye seeing became weakened. Davar acher, another opinion, because this was like more than 100 years later, his eyes became weakened. But nevertheless, little by little was a process. Davar acher, a third reason why his eyes became weak, kadei shitol Yaakov et brachot, in order that Yaakov would take the blessings. Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav. Explains in different places, and there's a book called Torah Or by Chabad. Why is it that Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav? So over there it says that he knew how evil Esav was, and he thought that the blessing was his only chance to correct him. Because Esav, in some Kabbalistic, mystical way, potentially was higher than Yaakov. And even more, that was the whole purpose of Yaakov coming into the world, was to correct Esav. almost impossible job. And Yitzchak said he's going to do it. He'll do it fast. He'll give him a big blessing, and then he'll just fix him up. And Yaakov knew that it wouldn't work that way. Really, Rivka knew that it wouldn't work that way. Okay, long story. But anyway, Yitzchak wanted to bless evil Esav. And the only way that Yaakov was able to take the blessings, which rightfully belonged to him, Rashi explains rightfully belonged to him, was he had to put the fur on his arms, and he changed the way he talked. And ain't moving, it's not understood. But Pashtus, simply, Nira, it seems, Shahasiba Muvat B'Torah Atzmo. Why does Rashi, we're on page 225, why does Rashi have to come with all these explanations? The Torah itself explains why he was blind. It says what? Vayehi ki zaken Yitzchak. It says that when Yitzchak became old, right? He became old. He was more than 140 years old already. He was pretty old. He was old. A person gets 140 years old. It's natural that his eyes, his eyes became weak and they couldn't see. Right? Some people, when they become old, they can't hear so well, they can't walk so well. Their memory goes sometimes. Right? Things wear out. His eyes started to become weak. Rashi says, no. Why did his eyes become weak? Because the incense of the idolatry, or because the angels cried, or because God did it in order that Yaakov should get the blessing and not Esav. Why have these three reasons for it? It says simply, he was old. Like it says the Gabi Yaakov Avinu, ve'ene Yisrael kavdu mizoken. It says clearly about Yisrael, about Yaakov, it's called Yisrael, that his eyes became heavy from old age. As a person gets older, very, very common that their eyes get weak. I remember my father told me there were people in his shul that they didn't want to buy glasses. They didn't want to buy reading glasses because it was a sign they were getting old. Right? So they didn't want to buy glasses. So they wanted to always look young or feel young or convince themselves they were young or whatever it was. And so they would, some people say it's not your eyes that go bad, it's just your arms aren't long enough, they say. If so, Madua mechapes Rashi sibot achirot. Why does Rashi have to look for these other three reasons? I mean, it just clearly says. Now, usually Rashi he only comments on things that a 5-year-old child would ask. A 5-year-old child would read this and he'd say, "Oh, I don't understand this. I don't understand this." And then Rashi comes in and he would explain it in a way that a 5-year-old child would be able to understand. The Rebbe makes a very big point of this. This is the center a lot of times of the Rebbe's commentary on Rashi. Okay, here, does not even a 5-year-old child, nobody would ask a question. What do you mean? It says clearly that when Yitzchak was old, his eyes became weak. What's the question there? Why is the question? Why does he have to answer? They became weak because of the smoke of the incense, or because the angels cried from heaven. And base. Anytime that Rashi brings two explanations or more, it's because Shekol Perush Yesh Kushi, each explanation he brings, there's some unanswered question, she'enu bepirush echad, which is not in another one of them. Each one answers some unique unanswered question. Gam b'seder pirushim, also in the order of the questions. Hakushi bepirush hasheni, the question in the second, gadol mikushi, it's hard for me to see. Bikushi beperush rishon, ve'akushi beperush shlishi, gadol min hasheni. It must be that if Rashi, let's say, brings in this case 3 explanations, it must be that the first explanation answers something simple. The second explanation answers something a little more difficult that still remains after the first question, after the first answer was given. And the third one, that answers even a more difficult question that remains even after the first 2 were answered. Yesh lahavin. So if so, we have to understand. Madu mahu, what are they? Hakashayim, the questions. Bishlosha pirushim, in these 3 explanations, elu uma hasibos ledirug ha'amor b'kashem. I must have looked in the sun or something, and there's this like spot, so I can't. For some reason, I can't read well. Okay, so we have to understand. If so, what is exactly the unanswered questions that the number 3 answers? And that aren't answered before, and what are the unanswered question number 2 answers, and what is the 1 answer, and etc. Gimel, Ka'amor, like we said before, mispar pamim, many times, b'makom shemevi Rashi, shlosha perushim, when Rashi brings 3 explanations, hari shebenosaf lakushi kayim, al kol pirush, Benifrad she'einu kayim me'acherim, that doesn't exist for the other 2, is yesh kushe gam al kol ashnayim min aprushim biachad. You can ask on both of the previous 2. She'beglalo yesh tzorech b'pirush shlishi. There must be something missing from the previous 2, that therefore you have to bring another explanation. She'alav ein kushi azakayim, that the third one answers it all. She'ilula ken ein tzorech l'shlishi perushim, wouldn't be necessary for the 3. So we have to understand, if he brings 2 explanations, no, it's not that. There's some spot, I don't know what it was, I must have looked, the sun must be directly in my eyes. There's some spot that blocks out the first 2 letters of every word. Interesting, I can't read the words, I have to, Look to the left. Maybe I'll put it over here. All right. Tzorech efol limitzvah b'pirush Rashi shelefanenu gam as a kushi hameshutaf lekol shnei hapirushim biyachad b'keitzad hu metarez b'pirush hashlishi. So we have to understand, what is the first 2? What is the question that both of the first 2 answer, and what is the one remaining that it doesn't answer, that the third answer has to answer? So Rashi brings 3 explanations why Yaakov became blind. 3 explanations. First of all, we don't understand why he needs any explanations, because it seems very clear from the Torah. It says he got old and he was there.
At this point,
just 1 second, but it must be the first one, the first answer that he brings about the smoke from the incense. It must be that answers some sort of a question. We have to figure out what it is. But it leaves over more than it answers. The second question comes to answer one of these remaining questions, but still it doesn't answer everything. The third question is the one that answers even the remaining question. Even the remaining question. But it must be, though, that there's an order to it. It must be that the questions are in a certain order, that the first question answers a question that the other 2 don't answer. That he could not have brought the third question, the third explanation first.
Before we get to the first question, why is this a big deal? Why would he ask even a question? It says his eyes were going.
Right, that's what the Rabbi says, right?
And but at this point in time, nobody was getting sick. They would just grow old, perfect health, and then all of a sudden die.
Could be. That's not a bad answer.
Yaakov was the first one to get sick a couple days before he died.
Maybe that's the answer. Could be that's the answer. Could be you got the whole answer. Let's see. Hasib l'kach sharashi enu makabel at the hezber apirush apashut v'tichen hoyata totzah mizaken Yitzchak. The reason that Rashi even comments at all, and why isn't it sufficient to him that Yitzchak became old, and therefore he got. But Pirush Kodem, as it says, Vayevorech Elokim et Yitzchak. It says that God blessed Yitzchak, the previous Parshat. Rashi explains, Nityera Avram appeared levorechet Yitzchak, Omar, if I'm saying, he was afraid. Omar, Yavo Bala Brachot v'Yavorech. Avram was afraid to bless his son. He said, who am I to give blessings? God will come and give a blessing. And that's what it says, V'Yavo Bo Kodesh Baruch Hu, and God really did come, and he blessed Yitzchak. So we got a blessing, mitores if shaylev. So there's the question, Ketzad Yitachin Sha'achar Brachas Yitzchak, Al Yedei Kodesh Baruch Hu Ba'atzmo. How could it possibly be that if God personally blessed Yitzchak himself, how could it be Yivatzer Matzav that there would be such a state shel techen of? How could it be if God blessed him himself? God personally blessed Yitzchak. How could it be that there was anything wrong with him? Hagorim la'adam l'tzaer v'yisurim. What tzar v'yisurim? What causes a person that he should have suffering in his life? Ad kedei kach kefi shekatuv Rashi behemshech shemipenei zot haya kamet. That because of this he was like a dead person. Right? It says a blind person is like someone who's dead. How did it come to Yitzchak, such a terrible thing? Barur shekiv and shekodesh baruch hu ba'atzmo bala brachos, because God Himself, that He is the source of all blessings. Barachet Yitzchak, He blessed Yitzchak. Lo yata zikna tzoricha lahazik lo kokach. It should be that when he got old, that his old age didn't affect him so much. Sheyeh chamishim v'sheva mishanotav chashuv kamet. That 57 of his years he would be considered to be blind. Wait, how could it be? When he went on the Akedah, he was 37 years old. 37 years old. And when he passed away, it was already, right, when he was old, he was getting ready to die. So that was already 57 years after that. 57 years after he was on the Akedah. That makes sense? Yes. Kames. He was what? I was 175 when he passed away, wasn't he? 180, I'm sorry, 180 years old, right. So he was 180 years old when he died. He was 57. No.
He was 60 when they gave birth to the boys.
Yeah. He was 60 when he gave birth to
Two sons.
Yeah. It says, so, b'miyuchad, right, you're right. So 57 years of his life, he would be considered to be like dead. How could it possibly be? God gave him a blessing. Ub'miyuchad kasher gil mea v'esrim v'shalosh shanim, when he was 123 years old, nechshav kazikna mufleges. He was already an old person. Kol kach b'tekufa I mean, it's not considered. It's not considered to be so old in those generations. People lived 175 years, right? Yitzchak was 180, right? He was 175 years old. Was not unusual for the course. Even though God said you can only live for 120 years after Noach, but we see that there were people who lived long. Ub'miyuchad she'en motziim zot etzlaf echad. We don't find this by anyone else. Mina anashim hamuzkarim arata limrosh shemarbi mehem hoyu harbe yoter mimea ve'esrim v'shlosh shana. A lot of people were more than 123 years old, and they didn't become blind. They didn't start to become blind. So Yitzchak also had a blessing, and he wasn't really considered to be that old. Therefore, Rashi brings other reasons why he became. It can't be that because of old age. First of all, he wasn't that old at the time. And also he had all these blessings from God. If so, Kalomar, Eikev brachas HaKodesh Baruch Hu liYitzchak, lulei hitarvus and yanim achirim, unless there was some other cause, achen hoya etzel Yitzchak kasher ka'etzel Moshe Rabbeinu, like Moshe Rabbeinu, matzav shel lo ke'anav. It should have been by Abraham, by Yitzchak, like it was by Moshe. Moshe says was 120 years old, and his eyes didn't become weak, and he was just as strong as he was. Lo naslecho, it was just as strong as ever. Aval, it must be some side thing. Sheshpio kansivos tzadadios. It must be some side thing that caused him to get blind. What? Good? Kushi said this question, Ketzad Yitachen Yitzchak. This question, how could it possibly be the Yitzchak? That the Kodesh Baruch Hu himself blessed him. And also, he wasn't really that old. Yizbol because Enayim should become blind. Mitorer miyad kasher lomdim et pasuk. This arouses as soon as we read the sentence, Vaticha hana einav miros, that his eyes became weak and weren't able to see. Lochein, therefore, l'savir laniach, therefore it is logical to suppose she'atshuva l'shay lezu romezes b'pasukim atzmo. It must be that somehow or other, the answer to this question is in the Torah itself. Since the pasuk is that his eyes became weak from seeing, Bo b'hemshech, that comes after the sentence of Nashei Esav. It says the women of Esav, that they were moras ruach liyitzchak l'Rivka, that they made Yitzchak and Rivka miserable, that their own son, the twin of Yaakov, had these terrible wives that worshipped idols. Is mipanesha avdu avodah zora, as his beer she be semichas zu ramoza hasiba l'techen. That because this is right after, what does it say? That the wives of Esav, they were moras ruach Yitzchak and to Rivka. They were great displeasure to them. Immediately afterwards, it says that Yitzchak was old and his eyes were weak. It says it must be a reason for this juxtaposition that they're one next to the other. It must be that the women, the wives of Esav, they caused him to be blind. So that's a simple answer. They caused him to be blind because of the incense came into his eyes, and that caused him to be blind. Good. That's the answer, right? Enough. We've answered it. That's why it was, even though he was young, Yitzchak wasn't so young, so old, and he had the blessings, but because of the sentence that's right before it, the wives of Esav, that's what caused him to be blind. Namely, the incense that they burned got into his eyes and made him blind.
That was the first explanation.
That's first explanation, right? So that's pretty much finishes it, right? Says no. Ach, beperush rishon yeshnu shtei kashim. But according to this reason, which is a pretty good reason, the incense from the eyes, Yitzchak was very sensitive, and this made him blind. But if you remember, we brought in the previous mimer that the Rebbe Rashab had trouble hearing in one of his ears. He had trouble hearing. And they asked him why, and suddenly he remembered that he was saying a Chassidic discourse, and there were people in the other room talking, and it disturbed him. So he shut off the power of hearing in one ear so it wouldn't disturb him. So you could say maybe it's something like this with Abraham, with Yitzchak. The incense that the wives, his daughter-in-laws, were burning, this disturbed him, and so he sort of shut off the power of seeing in his eyes. He became blind. Something like that. Says the Rebbe, pretty good answer, but it leaves two questions unanswered. Number one, and it's understood, it's obvious that the wives of Esav did not live together with Yitzchak. Obviously, they lived in a separate dwelling. It would wreck up their lives also to always be around this big tzaddik all the time, right? And they wanted to do all their idolatry and things. Is moving, she'ad maseim, she'hayu avodah zora, mishanos, mishanos, then the smoke that came up, Haim asu b'dira shalem. It must be that they were offering up these offerings and this incense and there was all this smoke. It must have been in their dwelling. It wasn't in Yitzchak's dwelling. Yitzchak would have evicted them. They wouldn't have done it in front of Yitzchak. If so, how is this so simple to say that their smoke, which was in their, where did they make this incense? They obviously tried to hide it a little bit from Yitzchak. How could it be that the smoke from their incense got all the way over into his eyes, into his dwelling? Question number one. Question number two, Madua hizik ashno rak li Yitzchak lo li Rivka. Why is it that this smoke from the incense made only Yitzchak blind? Why didn't it make Rivka also blind? Rivka was also a very holy person. Because of these 12 questions, so Rashi has to bring another explanation. What's the other explanation? The first explanation was pretty good, that there was the smoke from the incense, and Yitzchak was sensitive, and it made him blind. But the questions which arouse are, the incense was so close to him that the smoke was so potent. Obviously it didn't do it in the same house. And not only that, if it was that potent, then why didn't it make Rivka blind? Therefore, Rashi has to bring another explanation. Hakushi Akayim, I'll call Echad Mishnei Perushim, is Kishenekard Al Gabi Mizbeach. When Yitzchak was sacrificed on the altar, Yordu Dimot Alinov. That's the second one, where the tears from the angels came into his eyes. And the other one is that in order that Yaakov, he should get the blessings. Yitzchak wouldn't see, and he wouldn't give the blessing to Esav like he wanted. He would give it to him. Good. Says the Rebbe, Bepirush Hasheni Kasha. On the second thing that the angels wept, and one of the tears fell from heaven into Yitzchak's eyes, that's pretty far-fetched. But okay, it could be. He did become blind, and it wasn't according to nature back then that people would be blind. And he also had this big blessing from God. Tochan aperush niftacha shamayim v'ro malchi hashorish. This whole idea that the heavens opened up and the angels saw that he was crying and it went down tears, therefore his eyes, this is not a simple thing. This is a drush. This is what's called drush of the Torah. This pshat, remish, drush. V'lo kadarka shal Rashi, and not like the way of Rashi, but perusho shal Torah, but pshuto shal mikra. Rashi usually brings the simple meaning. Rashi says, I only came to do the pshat. Rashi never gives Kabbalistic answers or the midrashic answers, right? Unless he just definitely has to. There's some reason that he has to give these answers, but he tries not to. Rashi always tries to give the simple meaning. This thing of the heavens opening up and tears dropping down, this is not a simple meaning. Heavens opening up, what does it mean the heavens opened up? Tears from the angels dropped down? Al Pirush Shlishi, on the third explanation, there's even a bigger wonder. What's the third explanation? That he became blind in order that Yaakov should get the blessings. On this, there's even a bigger question. Keitzad yitachen shekodesh baruch hu yikahed riyato sheyitzchak shemashach shanim kol rabos kadei she'acher Yaakov yikabel al yedei zeh et habracha. How could it be that God made Yitzchak blind for so long, right? For such a long period of time? What do we say, 57 years? How long was it? 57 years? How could he have been blind for 57 years just in order that somebody else, that Yaakov, should take the blessings? Does that make sense? He had to make him blind. For 57 years, it says 57 years. 57 years of blindness just so that Yaakov get make him temporarily blind. His eyes became weak and he became blind for such a long time just for this. Make it that he was, he looked into the sun.
2 days before.
Yeah, and then it lasted for another day or another couple hours.
It's temporary.
V'zeh kushi gadol. This is a bigger question than the one on the second. Rashi brings this third explanation about Yaakov receiving the blessings. He brings this answer number 3. Because this answer is like only for emergency answer. This is an answer you don't use in normal situations. Ki gurimus yisurim la'adam laman tova zulosoi niris kehepech hayosher that Yitzchak should suffer in order that Yaakov should get the blessings, this does not seem to be logical. This does not seem Davar she'iev shar lechalutin l'shaychu l'kodesh baruch hu, that God would do a thing like this. Therefore, Rashi says this is one of the third one. I mean, if the Eibishter wanted to, he could make it that Esav broke his foot. It's not so bad. He deserved it. Yeah, Esav did so many bad things. Make it that he broke his foot, and that he was stumbling around looking for a doctor. And by the time he put on the splint, and by the time he hopped into the place, it was already finished. He already gave the blessings. Why did it have to be that Yitzchak had to get blind? Why did Yitzchak have to suffer in order to get... Okay, so now what do we have here? Rashi brings 3 explanations why Yitzchak became blind. Why does he have to bring out any explanations? Because in those days, people, when they were 120, whatever year, 20 years, 7 years old, they didn't become blind. It was unusual. Not only that, he had a big blessing from God. So there must be some outside cause that made him blind. So Rashi brings 3 reasons. The worst of the 3 is, and they give the blessings to Yaakov. Give the blessings to Yaakov. I mean, that's a pretty terrible reason. Yitzchak became blind for 50 years, whatever it is, in order just that he should 1 minute give a blessing to Yaakov. A guy could have done something temporary. So Rashi puts the answer number 3. Then there's number 2 answer. Number 2 answer is that the angels cried when they saw it. He said, but that's a nice answer. It's really, it's interesting. But it's not a simple answer. That's not a simple, what we call pshat answer. That the heavens opened up and angels cried and one of the tears went into that. That's weird. But it's a drush. It says it somewhere in the Talmud, in the Midrash. The first answer is the best answer. The first answer is the best answer. That what? The smoke of the incense of Esav's wives went into his eyes. But that leaves a couple of things unquestioned, unanswered. Why is it that only Yitzchak became blind from the smoke? Why not Rivka? And number 2, where did they make this incense? I mean, they burnt the incense in his house. They had their own house where they did all their avodah zorah and all this stuff, terrible stuff. How much smoke had already come into his eyes that make him blind? So if so, all these 3 answers, they're sort of, each one is weak, but altogether they answer the question. Let's see. But on the other hand, each one of these answers has its good side. Okay, Herschel. Kasher, ka'amor, like we said before. Yesh b'kol echad min hapirushim mala le'umat shnei hapirushim acherim. Each one of these 3 answers has something that the other 2 answers do not contain. B'milim acherot, or in other words, lekol shnei pirushim biyachad yesh otokushi. To all of these first 2 questions, there must be answers. The first 2 answers, there must be the same unanswered question. She'enu kayim b'pirush hashlishi, and the third one answers this question. Okay, what is? Let's see what's going on over here. Hayitron, and we'll see also in the end, the Rebbe will explain to us. It's right here. What this has to do with us today. Hayitron ha'ikari she'b'pirush harishon. The main advantage of this first explanation, al penei shtei hapiruchirim, on the other, over the other 2, is sharak hu ramuz and bepesukim. The first answer is the only answer that has a source in the sentences of the Torah. It talks about that Esav had these wives, that they were very displeasing to Yitzchak and Rivka. And then immediately afterwards it says that Yitzchak, he became old and blind. So he says, okay, maybe they have a connection with one the other. One was the wives, what could it be? So it says the incense from the wives. The good thing about the second explanation, namely that the tears from the angels fell down, al perasha rishon v'sheni, why you have to bring the second explanation down about the angels crying. Why wasn't the first and the third sufficient? Just bring the first one and the third one. No, you have to bring the second one also. Why? Lefi kol hapirushim haya batichehen hagorem lemesiros brachas Yitzchak liYaakov. according to all the opinions, the first B'dichahen, that he was blind, that Yitzchak became blind, this was what enabled him, or what caused him, to give the blessing to Yaakov instead of Esav. But Pirush Rishon, and the first one and the third, Nigram Tichehen, that which he became blind, by means of a pagam, the ganut, by means of something bad, the ganut, Lefia Pirush Rishon, because of Esav served the Avodah Zarah, and because of the third one, that Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav. So these were bad things, and the blindness came to as a reaction to these bad things. Right? The first bad thing was that Esav had these evil wives. The second bad thing was that Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav. So therefore, God made him blind. The blindness then was a result of his sensitivity to the bad of the incense, and according to the third explanation, the blindness was a result of his mistaken desire to give a blessing to Esav. The Yotzei, so comes out, She'enyanim shel ganos v'chisaron gormu labrachos. So it comes out according to the first explanation, namely the smoke from the idolatry, and the third explanation that Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav. It came out that these bad things caused good things, the blessings. Okay, Herschel. Ve'ilu lefi pirush hasheni, but according to the second explanation, it's exactly the opposite. What's the second explanation? That the eyes of Yitzchak became blinded because the highness of Yitzchak, the Akedah, he was on the altar. The angels saw how holy he was. What a terrible tragedy it would be if he was killed. And the angels cried because of his goodness. The first explanation about the smoke and about the Yitzchak wanting to give a blessing to Esau, that was a bad thing. That was a bad thing. The badness of the smoke and the badness of his desire to give. But the second explanation is that he became blind because of a good thing that he did. And he was willingly sacrificed on the altar. That's the reason for him to become blind. If so, the second explanation is, in a way, has something good about it. Namely what? That it was a good thing that he became blind. Why did he become blind? Because he had the courage and the devotion that he wanted to be sacrificed on the Mizbeach, on the altar. So the angels cried, the tears came into his eyes. It ended up that he's blind. It's almost like a badge of courage that he had because of the good thing that he did. Okay? Also, the third explanation is better than the first two. Okay, so again, what's the good thing about the first explanation about the smoke? Herschel, you with me?
Yes.
What's the good thing about the first explanation about the smoke?
The good thing about the smoke?
Yes?
Causes blindness.
No. It has a support from the Torah. The sentence, right, it says clearly that Esav's wives were a displeasure to Yitzchak and Rivka. And immediately after that, it says that Yitzchak became blind. So if so, there's a support from the Torah that's the reason he became blind, because of the wives. Right? But there's still the questions that he asked before. The wives obviously had their own house, and why didn't Rivka become blind?
But Yitzchak's goodness could be why he was affected by the incense.
But it was still a bad thing. Yes,
Still a bad thing.
but it was still a bad thing. And Rivka also was just as good as Yitzchak. I mean,
No, she was. Maybe.
the second explanation is, it's got a good point to it. What? That his blindness was caused by something good. According to the first and the third explanation, right, his blindness was caused by something bad, either the smoke or because of the desire of Yitzchak to bless Esav. So therefore he became blind.
Because of the good, but still, the Akedah was a test. Abraham was never really supposed to sacrifice, take Yitzchak's life, take him up there as an offering, not to offer him. So there's lots of questions there, isn't there?
No. Avram was supposed to sacrifice Yitzchak.
No, it wasn't. He was supposed to take him off his offering.
That's the explanation afterwards. Afterwards, we can say that God didn't come out as a liar, that what he said was true. But Avram took Yitzchak to sacrifice him.
He thought he was supposed to
Right?
sacrifice him.
He didn't think for 1 second that God was going to say, don't do it.
Yeah.
Not one moment. He says that he even prayed for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. He didn't pray for Yitzchak. Right? He could have said, God, please, maybe you can find another way to do this. I'll do whatever you say, God, but, please have mercy. Didn't say it at all. He went with happiness. He sharpened up the knife and he took the fire. Right? Yeah, Abraham thought for sure, no doubt in his mind, if God says to sacrifice, even more, it says that right after the Parshat Vayera, that talks about the Akedah, so it says that Sarah died. And one of the reasons was she died because she heard that Yitzchak was not sacrificed, that God didn't want him. She thought that maybe there was some sort of a blemish. So in other words, they really truly believed he was going to be sacrificed. Okay. So now we have, what about the third explanation? There's something unique and good about the third explanation, better than the first two. The first explanation Rashi gives about the incense, something uniquely good about that, that's supported by the Torah. The second explanation is uniquely good because Yitzchak became blind from good things, not from bad things. The third explanation also has its its good quality, uniqueness. What? Lefi shtei hapirushim harishonim yotze, it comes out, shetechena einav mir'os nigrom was caused zman rav lifnei zaken Yitzchak. According to the first two explanations, we said that Yitzchak became blind long before he was old. Shari kishenasa Esav et hanashim, when Esav married these evil women, when he married these evil women, is it already time?
That went fast.
Oh wow, yeah, wow.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
So you're having fun.
Okay, let's just do it up to here and then with this. When Esav married these evil women, Biyoto ben Arba'im Shana, he was 40 years old. At that time, Yitzchak was only 100 years old. Mea Shana. Kishenolad Esav haya Yitzchak ben Shishim, because when Esav was born, Yitzchak was 60 years old. So he married these women when Yitzchak was 100 years old. According to that, 100 years old wasn't so old. Lefi Pirush Hasheni, Shadavar Nigra Midimos, if you want to say that it was because of the angels, this was afterwards true when Yitzchak was 137 years old. Okay, 137 years old, this is still way before 180. He died at 180. Mitoras Hashem, if so, it comes a question, Madua Kasuv b'Torah Kodem ki Zaken Yitzchak. Why does it say that when he got old, his eyes went bad? It should have been that first of all his eyes got bad, and then after that he got old. Right? Because his eyes didn't get bad when he was really old. He wasn't when he was 180, 170, whatever he was. Eyes didn't get bad then. They were already bad a long time before. Therefore, Rashi brings the third explanation. The reason that he went blind was in order that Yaakov would get the blessings. In other words, he got blind immediately before. Shelipiv move on a Seder b'Torah. Vayiki Zaken Yitzchak, when Yitzchak became really old and he wanted to give the blessings, then all of a sudden, that's when he became blind. So now we can understand why the third explanation is brought. It has a big advantage to it. Namely what? That he got blind in a proper time. A logical time. Right? A logical time. But there's a big problem with the third explanation. You want to tell me that Yitzchak got blind in order that he should give blessings to somebody else? Like I said before, make it that Esav, blurted out a word. He could have come into his father and say, hey, Dad, drop dead. He could have said something wrong, and then Yitzchak said, oh, I don't want to give you a blessing. Right? You're Esav. I'm not gonna. I made a big mistake. A million ways Yitzchak it could have been done, so that Yitzchak would have decided not to give the blessing to Esav. But he could have done it otherwise. Why did it have to be that he became blind? So that's the big question that the third answer doesn't cover. As we will continue tomorrow, it's not much to go, and we'll do another one tomorrow also.